good day, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you all over the world. So for today's video, we're gonna be discussing about the country Jamaica. So disclaimer lang po, this video is based on my research. So if there has been any misunderstanding or there is a misleading information, I am sorry in advance because I only prepared this presentation for school purposes. So without further ado, let's get started. So let me start sharing my screen first so that you could have a reference of what I am talking about and you can follow up with me. Okay. Again, I am Elizabeth B. Ilagan from Jose Rizal University, VSA 202A. So let us first now discuss about the country's profile. So Jamaica is a mountainous Caribbean island located 600 miles or 965 kilometers south of Miami, Florida in the Atlantic Ocean. Along with Cuba, Hispaniola, and Puerto Rico, it is part of the Greater Antilles group of Caribbean islands. With a total area of 10,991 kilometers squared, Jamaica is somewhat bigger than Cyprus and a little smaller than Connecticut in the United States. Christopher Columbus, who first sighted the island in 1494, called it Santiago, but the original indigenous name of Jamaica or Jamaica has persisted. Columbus considered it to be the fairest isle that eyes have beheld. And many travelers still regard it as one of the most beautiful islands in the Caribbean. The island's various Spanish, French, and English place names are remnants of its colonial history. The great majority of its people are of African ancestry, the descendants of slaves brought by European colonists. Jamaica became independent from the United Kingdom in 1962, but remains a member of the Commonwealth. Jamaica's politics are governed by a representative parliamentary democratic constitutional monarchy. Jamaica's 1962 constitution created a parliamentary system with political and judicial traditions that are very similar to those of the United Kingdom. Jamaica's democratic political system has competitive elections and orderly power transitions. However, corruption continues to be a severe issue, and long-standing links between politicians and organized crime leaders are believed to exist. Violent crime, as well as harassment and violence directed toward LGBT plus persons, continue to be a source of concern. Nevertheless, over the previous 2 decades, Jamaica has had varied levels of political stability. Despite brief intervals of calm, Jamaica continued to be plagued by political unrest, which may have contributed to the country's slow economic progress. Consequently, even with the slow progress of Jamaica, it still has better stability than the Philippines. According to the World Bank, the Philippines ranks low in the measure of political stability and absence of violation, having only 11.79% during 2020 compared to Jamaica, which shows Jamaica's economic background. So, the economy of Jamaica is primarily reliant on tourism, which has become one of the country's most important sources of foreign currency. Jamaica is known for its comfortable temperature, beautiful beaches, and spectacular landscape, which includes Montego Bay Seas and the stunning Blue Mountains. Also, agriculture continues to be one of the island's economic foundations, accounting for around 1/20th of the island's GDP and 1/6 of its employment. Sugarcane is the main crop, with molasses and rum as byproducts. Oranges, coconuts, and bananas are among the most significant fruits aside from these products. Jamaica is also well known as one of the main producers of bauxite and aluminum. According to the Economic Complexity Index, Jamaica was the number 119 economy in the world in terms of GDP, current US dollar. Number 140 in total exports, number 128 in total imports, and the number 83 most complicated economy in 2019. In 2020, Jamaica's GNI per capita was $4,452. Jamaica's GNI per capita rose from $902 in 1971 to $4,452 in 2020, expanding at a 4.37% yearly pace. For the review period, the point-to-point inflation rate was 5.3%. The fiscal year-to-date inflation rate was 3.4%, and the calendar year-to-date inflation rate was 3.8%. The Greater Kingston Metropolitan Area, or GKMA, had a rate of 1.6%. Other urban centers, or OUC, had a rate of 1.5%, and rural areas had a rate of 1.4%. So let's now go to the poverty situation in Jamaica. With the commencement of the COVID-19 pandemic in March 2020, tourism came to a standstill as several Caribbean nations, including Jamaica, closed their borders to air and sea travelers in order to avoid an outbreak of diseases and deaths. Tourism as a significant source of employment, as I have said or mentioned a while ago, government income and foreign exchange gains in Jamaica have been heavily damaged. According to the data from the Ministry of Tourism, at least 50,000 workers directly working in the tourism sector have been laid off. These figures can even be greater when several indirect effects and informal sectors have been considered. According to the World Bank predictions, based on the most recent GDP per capita growth estimates for Jamaica, poverty is expected to rise by more than 4%. In 2004, the Gini index in Jamaica, as estimated by the World Bank, was 45.50. As seen in the paragraph below, in the graph below, I'm sorry, that's my mistake. This indicator has fluctuated between, so this is the graph I'm talking about. As seen in the graph below, this indicator has fluctuated between a top of 48.30 in 2002 and a minimum of 35.70 in 1993 over the last 16 years. So now let us proceed with the population of Jamaica. Over the previous 50 years, Jamaica's population growth has been erratic, with many ups and downs, including a precipitous decline from 1980 to 1990. Jamaica's population growth has slowed drastically over the last 15 years, falling to 0.26% in 2019. The population growth rate in Jamaica is predicted to slow further in the next years, before starting to fall gradually about 2030. The fact that net migration is predicted to stay at least 16,000 for the next 30 years, and that the average Jamaican woman will have less than 2 children, are also contributing causes. According to current forecasts, the population of Jamaica will reach around 2,913,160 in 2020, 2,932,629 in 2030, before continuing to drop towards 2,858,381 in 2040 and 2,703,591 by 2050. So these are the statistics that have been forecasted in Jamaica. So now let us proceed to the education profile of Jamaica. Despite the government and non-governmental organizations' attempts to raise the country's literacy rate, the country's literacy rate remains low. In their daily lives, nearly 235,000 Jamaican individuals are unable to read with comprehensive or write a basic statement. According to the 2015 National Profile of Jamaica published by the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, or UNESCO, more than 161,000 males and close to 74,000 girls over the age of 15 lack basic reading and writing abilities. Jamaica's adult literacy rate is at 88%, which is slightly lower than the Caribbean's average adult literacy rate of 92%. Learners encounter economic obstacles due to restricted work opportunities, which impact their capacity to attend lessons, and unfortunately, economic opportunity sometimes causes them to forego learning in favor of earning. In 2021, a total of 73,392 Jamaican citizens are illiterate. The literacy rate for adult female population is 93.1%. Male and female youth literacy rates, on the other hand, are 94.21% and 98.86% respectively. So now, let's proceed next to the health background. There are several health challenges in Jamaica that necessitates a well-functioning healthcare system. Stroke, diabetes, newborn diseases, ischemic heart disease, and HIV or AIDS are the leading causes of early mortality in Jamaica. Along with these problems, Jamaica's youth are disproportionately affected by mental illness and sexually transmitted diseases or STDs, which are often linked to social and economic causes. According to the 2017 Global School Health Survey, 24.8% of pupils seriously pondered suicide and 18.5% attempted suicide in the previous year. So sad, right? In terms of STDs naman, in 2018, just 31% of Jamaicans over the age of 15 and 51% of Jamaicans under the age of 15 who were living with HIV were receiving treatment. However, Jamaica's healthcare problems do not indicate that the country is helpless. In reality, Jamaica's Minister of Health and Wellness said in 2019 that $200 million will be spent over the next 5 years to upgrade public health facilities. The minister intends to upgrade 9 public health facilities and 6 hospitals, including the Cornwall Regional Hospital, which will serve almost 400,000 people. In addition, the minister intends to construct a new Western child and adolescent hospital and create more advanced healthcare technologies. Healthcare in Jamaica is lacking in many areas, but the country is doing continuous work to enhance health facilities and services. This progress shows that the country should see improvement in the future. Now let us proceed or talk about the agricultural and rural development in Jamaica. Agriculture contributes for roughly 6% of GDP in Jamaica, which is lower than in other developing nations. Agriculture, together with forestry and fishing, is the world's 3rd largest earner of foreign exchange and 2nd largest employer of workers. Attempts to counter conventional agricultural exports, major price and production challenges by boosting the production of winter vegetables, fruits, and flowers have had mixed results. In 1999, 184,000 tons of vegetable and melon were produced. Popular kinds include pumpkin, carrot, cabbage, tomato, callaloo, and cucumber. Pulses, red peas, peanuts, gungo peas. 5,000 tons condiments, scallion, hot pepper, onion. 7,000 tons fruits, papaya, pineapple, watermelon. 1,416,000 tons cereals such as corn and rice. 2,000 tons and roots and tubers such as yams, potatoes, and plantains. 307,000 tons were produced in 1999. Jamaica has a large potential for food production, and there are several interesting chances for the industry on the worldwide market, producing food in which the country has a distinct and competitive edge, as well as seeking product diversification through new value-added food items are the country's possibilities for growing agriculture and agribusiness. Agriculture provided 8.68% of Jamaica's gross domestic product in 2020, while industry contributed around 20.39% and the services sector generated roughly 59.74%. Now let us proceed to the environment and climate change that Jamaica faces. Jamaica faces major environmental problems with respect to air pollution, surface and groundwater pollution, deforestation, soil and shoreline erosion, destruction of wildlife and wildlife habitat, and serious deficiencies in urban infrastructure. Jamaica's climate is primarily tropical, with the most significant climatic features being the northeast trade winds, as well as the island's orographic characteristics have a strong impact, mainly the central ridge of mountains and hills. Okay, Jamaica is particularly vulnerable to climate change as to its location in the path of storms and its vulnerability to drought, floods, and excessive heat. On a global scale, its contribution to the greenhouse gas emissions that are warming the world is negligible when compared to big economies. Nonetheless, its NDC sets a goal of reducing emissions by 25% by 2030 compared to current levels. This is up from its previous NDC by more than 60%, with nearly 4/5 of the reduction coming from the energy sector, according to Charles. Now, we will proceed to the international trade and currency. So with 40% of overall commerce, the United States is Jamaica's most important commercial partner. China, Brazil, Canada, Japan, and the Netherlands, Trinidad and Tobago, and the United Kingdom are Jamaica's other main commercial partners. According to the World Bank's 2013 to 2020 Doing Business reports, Jamaica is attractive to U.S. exporters due to its geographic proximity and access to shipping lanes, relatively large English-speaking market, stable democracy, and strong commercial and cultural affinity, and improving business climate. The exchange rate was characterized by cycles of appreciation and depreciation throughout 2019. According to the statistics, the Jamaican dollar has gone through 5 distinct cycles of upswings and downswings. In 2019, the Jamaican dollar depreciated by 3.6% on average versus the US dollar, compared to a 0.9% depreciation in 2018. The local currency depreciated in 2019 mostly as a result of increased demand of fund, real estate, and other operations. Jamaica's foreign exchange reserves were 3,589.3 million US dollars in February 2022. Though Jamaica's foreign exchange reserves have varied significantly in recent months, they have tended to rise from March 2021 to February 2022, reaching 3,000. Okay, I'm sorry, I accidentally reaching 3,589.3 million US dollars in February 2022. For the financial system in Jamaica, monetary policy is aimed at keeping inflation low, stable, and predictable. Households and companies may securely plan for future consumption output, savings, and investment. Since inflation is low, steady, and predictable in the long run, this helps to produce strong GDP growth and low unemployment. Non-residents are taxed on Jamaican source income, whereas Jamaican citizens and domiciled people are taxed on their global income. Foreign source income is normally not taxed until it is remitted to Jamaica by a non-Jamaican domiciled individual. Regardless, a non-domiciled individual operating in Jamaica is taxed on both Jamaican source income and remuneration due to services provided in and in connection to Jamaica, subject to certain exclusions. Now, let's proceed to the urban development. So the urban development and women's issues and rights Okay, so for the urban development, one of the key causes ascribed to the establishment and spread of squatter communities and slums across the world is rural-urban migration. Since the 1950s, many individuals have migrated from rural regions to metropolitan areas in quest of better chances and resources for their families, such as employment and better schools for their children. There are at least three plausible causes for the flow of individuals from rural to urban areas in Jamaica. First, Jamaica, like many other developing nations, has maintained a strategy that has consistently favored urban growth at the expense of rural development, making the latter unappealing to young people in particular. Second, a few number of farmers control the majority of arable farmland, leaving small farmers with marginal hillside property that loses soil through floods during rainy seasons due to inadequate agricultural practices. Rural poverty is the third significant reason driving rural or urban mobility in Jamaica. In Jamaica, the bulk of the 60% of the people living below the national poverty line dwell in rural regions. The Planning Institute of Jamaica's Policy Development Unit has proposed several causes for this unfortunate scenario, including unbalanced land distribution, an underproductive small agricultural sector, low levels of education, and inadequate physical and social infrastructure. Next, we have the inequalities between men and women are a direct cause of violence against women. It denies women their most basic human rights, such as the right to health, and inhibits community and countrywide social and economic growth. Aside from the physical, emotional, and mental harm that violence does to women, it also prohibits them fully participating in society. Women's access to resources like land, water, and food, as well as their capacity to participate in activities such as labor, education, and travel, is hampered by violence. The United Nations recognizes violence against women as a fundamental impediment to development, gender equality, peace, as well as a major violation of human rights. Women in inner city communities frequently recount how they have hid to under beds or couch somewhere other than home in order to avoid becoming the next statistic. Whether at the hands of a stranger, one of the neighborhood gangmen, or all too often her intimate and not so intimate partner. In which case, she is no longer safe simply because she is a woman or because she is in the confines of her home. With the most recent initiatives in Jamaica to promote gender equality, it appears that the country is making progress as more residents become aware. Citizens and groups continue to raise awareness about the significance of women's rights in Jamaica as the government responds to popular uproar. Nonetheless, the major issue in Jamaica is crime and corruption, like any other country such as the Philippines would have. Transparency International cites 5 key areas where the Jamaican government may improve its suggestions on fighting corruptions. Encouragement of free expression and a free press, to reducing media rules and guaranteeing that journalists are free to operate without fear and persecution or violence, promoting openness through promoting legislation that emphasize on access to information, and lastly, advocating for national and international changes that promote access to information and the safeguarding of basic freedoms. So that it. So we end. So that's how we end now. I think that's the last. So I hope you have learned something and you knew about the background of Jamaica. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed and learned something from it. So again, I am Elizabeth B. Alagan, and this is Jamaica. Thank you.